Big question ahead. What is consciousness? We have defined it previously as consciousness being that something is like something for someone, but that's just a very general definition of the concept that anyone could agree with, regardless of what their theory of consciousness is more specifically. So now we're asking, well, what is it? What does it consist of? How does it work? Digging more into detail on understanding what consciousness is. And I'll start then by reminding us about what is commonly thought about physical values, so the particles and their properties like spin and mass and charge, etc. We have some known particles and some known properties, but it seems to be unknown as well. So physicists will talk about dark energy and dark matter, etc., referring to some sort of forces and particles, etc., that they do not know. Most of these things then seems to come in degrees, that you can have more or less mass, more or less energy, more or less spin, etc., or different degrees of these physical values then, and that they can combine into configuration. Simple particles combine into different kinds of atoms, molecules, and they can turn into chairs and houses and mountains and everything. But we don't know what they are in themselves. If you ask what is energy or what is spin, physicists will usually say, well, it's energy is mc square or half times m times v squared, so they relate it to mass and speed, etc., but they don't say what it is in its internal structure. What is it? And much of the same could be said then about qualia values. So if you think of consciousness as also consisting of being a field with certain properties, thinking of it in the same way as we do in physics, we could say, well, we have some known conscious experiences that we know from experience, things we can see and feel, etc. But it seems to be some unknown as well, because we've seen some people experiment with conscious experiences of magnetism or new colors, etc. They seem to come in degrees, lighter, darker, more or less painful, etc. You can combine them into configurations. You can see things with many colors or hear something with many sounds, etc. But we don't know what they are in themselves. If you just ask, well, what is blueness, this conscious blue in itself, it's difficult to answer. So there seems to be many parallels then between qualia values or conscious experiences and physical things, which could indicate then that it can be enlightening to understand them in light of each other. So that's what we're going to dig more into now. Is it possible to think of conscious experiences also as composed of simpler parts, in the way that physical things are composed of simpler parts that come in different degrees, etc.? So this is a theory called panqualitism says this, and I'm presenting sort of my version of it now. And let's try to look at how it would be possible then to divide conscious experiences into parts that come in different degrees. So for some examples, it's maybe simpler to think that the answer is yes. If we think about things we can see, colors, we typically say that colors come in different degrees of hue, brightness, and saturation. You can see these color maps and see how it's gradually slides into each other. So it seems to be something that can come in different degrees with some more fun or basic parameters then. Something similar can be said about sound. We usually say that sound come in different degrees of pitch, loudness, and timbre. So that's the conscious experience of sound, and you can relate them then physically to frequency, intensity, and time variation, spectral content. That would be sort of the physical aspects that come in different degrees, and then we can consciously experience them then as sound being higher or lower or lighter or deeper, etc. Taste is also commonly known to be divided then in sweet and sour and bitter, salt and umami, but of course also smell is influences how things taste, and also our thoughts can influence how things taste, thoughts and feelings. So these they influence each other. When it comes to odor, maybe that sounds more tricky, but at least we have some theories of how odor can also be reduced to some basic odors. So there's one theory saying that all the different odors are combinations of 10 basic odors. So fragrant, like flowers or perfume; fruity, like all the fruits that are not citrus fruits, but then citrus is its own category; woody or resinous, like tree and grass; chemical, like ammoniac; bleach; sweet, like chocolate and caramel; mint, like eucalyptus or camphor; nutty, like popcorn; and other nuts; pungent, like blue cheese and cigar smoke; rotten, like rotten meat and sour milk. And then these can mix then into different kinds of smells. When it comes to feelings, there's also different theories, but quite similar, and you can see sort of feeling maps as well. This big circle from you have from something feeling good or bad. You can have these universal emotions of disgust and fear and joy, etc., and then they divide into finer and finer emotions and feelings. And often, of course, these will be combined also with thoughts, and it can be difficult to feel the difference between jealousy or envy or schadenfreude and different feelings like that. But it's also related to how we're thinking. So I don't have the details, but it seems to be a lot of good reasons to think that there are simpler parts that come in degrees and give us the different variations of the conscious experiences that we have. I didn't comment on thoughts now. I'll do that first. So thoughts would then be a combination of things that we have seen and things that we have felt that are stored in our mind. Because feeling seems to cover, broadly feeling seems to cover taste and sound and smell. Seeing is like it's more a different category and kind of conscious experience. And thoughts are a combination of those two. That's what we looked at in the grounded cognition model, how when you have a thought, even abstract thoughts, it's activating these different memories of things you've seen and felt put together in combinations, and also new combinations. But even if I don't have the detail, there are a lot of things that fits well into this picture, and I think it would be exciting if neuroscientists continue to sort of investigate systematically how, if you vary the stimuli that someone is exposed to, and then they say how it varies in their conscious experience. Now it's lighter, now it's darker, now it's more painful, etc. And then look for what is a systematic variation in brain activity. Then one can try to relate these parts and draw this map of the qualia field. What are the variables? How do they? We looked at how maybe sound could be so deep that it started feeling and turning into feeling. How do these different qualia relate in this qualia field? That would be an area of research with fantastic potential if we could understand more of how the brain makes us feel either good or bad. Then that could maybe relieve a lot of pain, etc. in the future. So we'll see what happens. What I've tried to suggest here is then that we should think of consciousness as a basic constituent of the world, but it's a kind of value that you find in the qualia field, similar then to how we find values in the physical field. But the qualia field, you could say at bottom it's just a field with different values, but I've distinguished between the qualia field because here you have the subjective values, things that can be experienced subjectively, whereas in the physical field you have those values that cause motion, create motion in the world. So that distinguishes them, and then within each of the fields you have then various qualities again. which I try to describe then with the different qualia that we know. So this is the more my theory of what consciousness is. It is a basic ingredient. These are some of the main characteristics of how the simpler parts relate to each other, and it's a more detailed theory than, can you say, of how we have these the conscious experiences that we are used to experiencing. They consist of more simple parts that are values to be found in the qualia field. That's my theory of consciousness, and in the next video we'll look at how the qualia field and the physical field, or consciousness and the physical things, can interact.